Live from Harebrained Scheme Studios in beautiful Seattle, Washington, where the clouds are out because it's Seattle, Washington.
I kind of like the clouds.
Nobody asked you. This is not your turn. I'm talking now. Hey, this is
so that's how we do this now.
That's always the way we do things. Can I get to it now, please? This is the Harebrained Schemes developer live Q&A for BattleTech, and we are taking your questions that were on BattleTechGame.com. What is that, kids? BattleTechGame.com. Our special guest today is Kiva McGinn, lead designer of BattleTech. You know our old friend Mike McCain. He is the game director of BattleTech. My name is Mitch, and I work at Harebrained Schemes, and I will be your host. So we have a metric F-ton of questions.
We're not going to get through them all.
No, but we are going to try desperately to get through them all, because the first question right here that comes from Sigil is this the last live dev Q&A of the year? And the answer is, yes, it is. And the reason for that, just like last year, is we have, again, a metric F-ton of work to do for the rest of the year, and we got to put our heads down and do it. We are...
You could have more Q&As, or you could have a game. I guess it's your call.
No, it's cool. It's cool. And by the way, all three of us are fairly caffeinated and fairly exhausted, so welcome to game development. All right, so without further ado, our format has been that for the first half hour, we take questions from BattleTechGame.com. And the second half hour is live via chat. Today, because it is our last Dev Q&A of the year, and because we have Kiva here and we want to go through all of your questions, we're going to go through as many of these as possible, and with whatever time is left, we'll go to live chat. But we really want to make sure that we're getting these questions out for you. So without further delay, we have so much here. I just want to ask you.
Thank you for not saying adieu, by the way.
No,
I hate that.
No, I'm not big on that. Could you just give the folks at home just a little taste of your resume, a little bit, where you come from, and all that kind of stuff?
I've been making games since 2003. I was designer and then lead designer on an MMO called Pirates of the Burning Sea. It was a critical success.
Sorry. I've had some of those.
Got very good ratings.
Yep.
People were very happy with some of my work, but ultimately, anyway.
Game development business.
I made a lot of other pitches and games at that company, Flying Lab Software, and then I did some contracting indie work, fun, fill in the gaps kind of work, until through a mutual friend, I heard that Harebrained was going to be rebooting another FASA property, and I said, ooh, I bet it's BattleTech.
Ooh.
And since the turn-based strategy game with a complex sim layer has been my dream game for a very long time, I showed up and said, you have to hire me.
And just on the other side of that equation, that mutual...
We agreed.
What was that?
And we agreed?
We agreed, yeah. The mutual friend that Kiva's talking about also is a lead designer that I worked with for many years and I've known for at least 20, who said, hire Kiva, she has your sense of humor. And I thought, oh, that's really not good.
Yeah.
I think the word was curmudgeonly, too.
Mitch asked me, are you an asshole, in the interview? Like, here's what Tyne said about you. Does that mean you're an asshole?
That's inside baseball.
Oh.
We're going to move on with our first question of the day, and I'll thank you not to interrupt me ever again. Okay. This one comes... What was it?
It's like, good luck with that.
Yeah. This one comes from Honor Knight on our forums. Will there be core missions to advance the story along with a lot of... Oh, by the way, sorry. Just to back up. For those of you joining us perhaps on YouTube later, just want to point out the topic for today, and it's been a lingering topic that we're excited to have Kiva in for, is the single-player campaign, and especially what we call the mercenary simulation side of it. So we'll get to an overview of that in just a moment, but I just want to ask this question on behalf of Honor Knight. Will there be core missions to advance the story along with lots of optional side missions to help you gear up and handle the core missions?
Yeah, so the single-player story covers a bunch of handcrafted, very kind of detailed, story-driven missions of the kind that you more or less expect from Harebrained Schemes, and then sort of filling in all of the wander around the galaxy, getting in trouble, mercenary stuff, are a huge, just shit ton of ad hoc content that you can do. Take contracts for great houses, take contracts for local planetary governments, And the purpose of those is because, one, fighting is fun, and two, leveling up your guys and getting better equipment is fun. And since making money is kind of the whole point of this mercenary outfit, it's sort of like a core component of what we're doing here, that you take these jobs. Some of them pay better than others.
Sure.
Some of them are more above board than others.
McCain, at a high level, you want to cover the single-player campaign in any greater detail?
Sure, yeah. I mean, the high-level setup is that you're helping Kamea reclaim her throne. Now, to do that, you're the elite Mech Warrior force that she's going to use for missions that are too dangerous for normal troops, and you're also going to support her armies in taking key planets away from the Directorate. So this leaves you with a lot of downtime to, I think as she puts it, to roam and to grow your mercenary company from a small band of a few Mech Warriors to a fully fledged company that can help her in the war effort. And so that's really where the mercenary sim comes in. There's as Kiva said, there's content all over the place. I've only played a small portion of it, and I've been playing through as much as I have time for. And yeah,
it's a big game.
Yep.
Huge game.
All right, this question comes from William von Wilhelm Helmet. And
that's a good name.
I love it. Thanks for your questions. You have a lot of good questions over the course of the last many months. When you went about designing the mercenary simulation portion of the game, what kind of questions did you have? What were your sort of high-level goals?
Well, let me just say that I've been designing the sim game since I started here. Even though we were doing a lot of combat work, the sim game was always my focus and what I wanted to make more than anything. And in a sense, I've been designing this particular sim game for 15 years. So I have some very strong thoughts about it. So
it should be done now.
Yeah, well, it has been done repeatedly. You keep asking for more. But the sort of core principle that informs it all is that we're going to give you all these randomly generated characters with a bunch of numbers and random names. And by the time you are playing the game, and I want you to feel like they're people. I want you to feel like these are genuine human beings living on your ship, having their own stories, so that it really, really hurts when I kill them. That's my goal. That's the goal that informs...
You mean the random number generator.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what I meant. And that's...
It's okay. Headshots never happen in BattleTech.
That's what's informed my design from the beginning, is to make you care enough about these bundles of numbers that you're really upset when I kill them.
Can you talk a little bit more about the life tracks for pilots? That's something we haven't really talked about at all.
In fact, yeah, I can talk about that. So I wrote this system, and I'm going to just up front say that it's over-designed. We didn't need this, but I wanted to make it. Every pilot that you hire has actually gone through a life path style career progression, meaning that I know where they come from, I know what kind of education they had, I know what twists and turns their career has taken. So, they might start out as a commoner but fall into a life of crime and end up as a convict, but then get recruited into a pirate crew after coming out of prison. I think one of the pilots you start with is actually, she developed contacts in prison and became a hired killer when she got out of prison. So, things like that. There can be nobles, disgraced nobles, wealthy traders and businessmen who are looking for excitement and adventure. I've got disgraced Comstar adepts as a possibility, Solaris Gladiator. So it's a very complex system to show basically when you look at a guy, you're not just looking at his stats, you're looking at a dossier of point by point, like it's his resume basically. It's like, here's what I've done. Here's all the things that you can count on me for. And that life path process doesn't just generate their stats, it also generates all of the tags and descriptive personality traits that we'll then key into with our event system and other systems to basically flesh that person out. So it's not just you have Bob Carita, the pilot. Hi, Bob Carita.
Bob.
Bob
sorry.
is our go-to
Exactly.
example pilot. I expect him fully to feature prominently in the sim.
He will show
He's
up.
in all our demo screens.
He will show up. You will see Bob Carita. So it's not just Bob Carita. It's Bob Carita who is, a former tech. He knows a little bit about mech maintenance, and he's also hot-headed and kind of rebellious. And all of those things will influence the kinds of content that Bob ends up doing and getting pulled into on the ship.
Which leads me to my next question.
Well, that's good. I wouldn't want it to lead you nowhere.
No, McCain, sorry, you just got to sit here quietly while keep it.
Hey, I'm just here to hang out. She gets to answer
cool.
all the hard
All right.
questions.
So this one comes from Kanza Doom, and you'll see how it links directly to your last question. What is your proudest achievement that you feel the sim portion will give us?
It's the event system.
Yeah.
I'm really
I wanted
excited
to talk about the
it.
event system because I'm excited about it too.
So on at the most obvious surface level, the event system is, you've seen it if you've played Crusader Kings or Stellaris. It is the sort of pop-up thing happens, and it's a little text and a picture. It's also the most complex and powerful system we've built in the entire game. It drives things that have nothing to do with events at this point because of how flexible it is. It's like the Swiss Army knife of game design. One of the things that it lets us do is that I described, what if Bob Carita is hot-headed? Well, there could be a random event where his hot-headedness is put to the test, and you have to, as the commander, make a call. Is that okay? Do you want to yell at him for what he did? Do you want to support him and encourage him to be hot-headed?
So let's step back from that for just a second, just for the flow. You'll be traveling around space, taking your contracts, and while you're traveling, an event will pop up.
Yeah, so let's, off the top of my head, it's an event where it turns out that a bunch of the crew are bowling in the corridors.
As you do.
Yeah, this is a real event in the real game. I'm not kidding. They're playing bocce ball in the corridors. And so you're presented with this quandary. This is, obviously not military discipline. Do you let that happen, or do you shut it down? Or do you not just let it happen, but encourage it and establish a tournament on the ship? And those can have effects on the people who organized the tournament in the first place, or who organize the games. It can have effect on your ship's overall morale. It can have an effect on individual Mech Warriors' morale. It can establish you as the kind of person who thinks that holding a bowling tournament in the corridors of the Hab Pod is a good idea. So they're these slice of life events. They're these little things that pop up, and it's like, here's what it's like to live aboard this weird abandoned lost tech Hulk.
Sounds good. Hey, Mike, we'll let you talk for a minute just for the hell of it. Can you tell us a little bit, and maybe Kiva can join in also, but, that's okay. I know where he is. You don't have to lean back. About morale and how it works in the game. Can you just give us sort of an overview?
Sure. So there's two parts to morale. There's the morale that you can gain or lose over time in the sim game. Kiva will talk a little bit more about that in a second. But then there's morale in combat, which is basically where one of the ways in which your morale or lack thereof can pay off. If you have more morale in the sim game, then when you launch into a mission, you'll start with more morale accrued, and that allows you to take special. Your Mech Warriors can essentially take special morale actions in a mission based on the amount of morale resource that you have available.
So, so on board the ship, you have morale that ranges from 0 to 50, and then in combat, it goes from 0 to 100. So you can start the combat game with your bar half filled as a result of things you do on the ship. But morale on the ship does more than just feed that number into combat. It also affects the kinds of events you'll get. So if you keep your morale in the toilet, you have Mech Warriors who will want to leave, who will come to you and say, look, I've got a better offer. You'll have, rebellious Mech Warriors becoming mutinous. Conversely, if you keep your morale really high, you'll get benefits from that. You'll have Mech Warriors who are eager to join you, Mech Warriors who are helping each other out more. The other effect of that is that individual Mech Warriors can have things that make them happy or unhappy. And that's largely influenced by the ship's morale overall, but they also have specific triggers. So a very sort of militaristic Mech Warrior who's used to military discipline is probably not going to be entirely happy if you set your spending levels to the highest level of extravagant. He's like, we're going soft here. Conversely, a Mech Warrior who comes from a wealthy family and is used to being treated well is going to be really upset if you're forcing them into Spartan accommodations. So specific Mech Warrior personality traits can end up applying high or low morale to that Mech Warrior, and then when they go into battle, if they're high or low morale, that changes the amount of morale you have to spend to activate those abilities. So a high morale Mech Warrior, you can pop off those abilities like crazy. A low morale Mech Warrior is going to be a struggle to get all of those abilities to work, and you're going to end up paying for it in the long term.
Another question about Mech Warriors while we're here. Very important. This comes from a Mech Warrior.
A Mech Warrior. I know that guy. Hi, a Mech Warrior.
Will our Mech Warriors be able to die of dysentery?
Yeah. So, okay. Honest answer. The event system can do anything, and low enough morale on your ship can cause all kinds of terrible things to happen. Not serious answer is that I expect you to name your Mech Warrior Pepperoni and Cheese.
While we're in there, again, Mech Warrior was asking about how, you used the word Spartan earlier, right? Can you talk more about that? Because you can actually affect morale with money.
Yeah, well, and actually it's more kind of the other way. You can use morale to save yourself money if you're going to go broke. There are 5 levels of expenditure you can set, and that's kind of affects your expenditure across the board for maintenance, for salaries. It's just a general knob you can turn up or turn down. Mostly because I don't think it's actually interesting to manage your finances at a line item by line item way, but also because it gets us this, which is if you crank your finances down to Spartan, you save across the board, but there are a whole set of events that only happen when you've got your finances turned that low. And also, if you crank them all the way up to extravagant, there's a whole set of events that only happen when you are at extravagant. What those levels actually do is they just give you morale. Every quarter, you get morale or lose morale based on what you set that dial to. So if you're consistently running a huge profit and able to pay for those extravagant expenses, you'll end up with a lot of built-up morale. So you go into battles and you can just stomp all over your enemies, because the morale you take into battles, that's persistent. If you're at 50, every battle you fight is going to be at 50 as your starting value. Conversely, if you turn it all the way down, you can save yourself money, which is important because money is how you lose this game. It's in fact the only way you can lose the game. But what you have to pay for that is your morale is going to be low, you're going to get negative events, and you're going to bring less morale into battle with you to use. So you won't be able to start off with a massive 1-2 punch to lead into the battle.
I got that. McCain, anything to add there?
No, just in general, I'd say this is one of the most elegant things about the event system that Kiva and the team have built, which is that, it is a flexible venue for reacting to what you've done. Like, just by changing the distribution there of events, with morale events or with Argo upgrades can also change the distribution of events. So you buy your Mech Warriors, basically you add some luxury conveniences or just the mess hall to the Argo, and now that creates more emergent opportunities for the event system to give you positive results instead of negative results.
This is actually something that no questions showed up that I saw, but
nobody can see you.
Oh.
I just looked at the screen and went, hey, wait,
where'd
you go?
A problem. Nobody asked this question, but I want to address it. Mike mentioned upgrading, rec facilities and so forth. The Argo is a Hulk, and I've tried to emphasize this, that it's basically a shell of a ship. It's basically some engines.
An ancient shell of a ship.
Yeah, and it's engines attached to a spine with some maybe partially functional mech bays, and that's it. It's a garbage place to live. It's like, your science fiction Robinson Crusoe desperately scratching out a living inside this hulk of a ship. So as you spend money on the Argo, you can make it a place where people want to live and want to work, because the original mission of the Argo was to be kind of a place you live. It's a luxury ship. It was used for exploration, and they would use it as a sort of home base for leopards to go off of. So it doesn't start out that way, but you can get it back to that point by spending a ton of money and resources and time on the Argo. And that lets you build things like zero-G pools and hydroponic farms and cool stuff like that that your Mech Warriors like, and that also unlock events specifically related to those things.
Neato. Changing topics completely.
Excellent.
We're still in the mercenary simulation, but one of the things mercenaries do while simulating their mercenariness is to actually take contracts.
Didn't make a damn bit of sense, but okay, go ahead.
Just follow me. Right? So, you take contracts, right? Can you tell us a little bit about the sort of contracts you'll take?
So, yeah, the way the contract... Can I just talk about how the contract system works? Because that's probably easier.
Oh, I'd love that.
And sort of sketch that out so I can tell you what kinds of contracts you'll get.
Yeah.
We have these encounters, and encounters are kind of a building block of content. So we looked at the sort of common scenarios that you might run into, like the simple one is simple battle, right? You just fight another lance. There's the one that I've been talking about recently is defend base, where you're hired to defend a base by whoever. And defend base can have some different moving parts to it. The base could have turrets. The turrets could need to be turned on. There could be one wave of enemies, 2 waves, or 3 waves. The spacing of those waves could be different. How tough the buildings are that you're protecting can vary. So we build all that variation into the encounter itself. Then we have a sort of layer above that I think of as the flavors, the MSG we sprinkle over the top of this to make it taste good. And it's things like, what is this base? Is this a maintenance base you're defending? Is it an ammo depot? What kinds of forces are attacking it? Are they elite Kurita assault mechs? Are they, garbage pirate mechs that they've scavenged out of a old battlefield? And it also, that contract, that flavor level, turns on and off the different parts of the encounter. So the contract can say, okay, this is going to be 1 wave of enemies, no turrets, and you just defend it. Or you have to turn the turrets on, you have to defend the techs and their APCs, because there's going to be 3 waves, and the 3rd wave is going to just kick your ass. It's going to be hugely difficult to beat them. So the person writing the contract can basically use the encounter as a toolkit to build the piece of content that they want. What that means is that the kinds of contracts you'll be encountering is anything that our writers can think of that fits within one of these. I think we have 8 established kind of structures: defend a base, capture a base, destroy a base, assassinate a target, and so on. We have 8 of them total, and they all have multiple variations. And then on top of that, the actual employer and target is randomized. So we look at who owns the system, we look at the kind of people who live there or have an interest there, we look at the potential targets for that system, and we basically pull together a mission that's like, the owner of this, the local government that owns this planet needs you to wipe out this pirate base. Or the Davion forces that are looking to destabilize the Taurian government of this border world have asked you to go and sabotage one of their munitions factories. So those are both, totally plausible contracts that could be laid on top of the destroy base encounter. And how those would get picked and put together entirely depends on where you are in the world, where you are in the story, and random chance, what got pulled up.
The system also gives us a lot of flexibility to tailor contracts more or less to specific contexts. So, by default, we've got a large library of contracts that support a variety of different factions and situations in the game. We also have the ability to create more specific curated factions. So you get high enough reputation with House Davion there, and all of a sudden there's a special contract that comes up that's both gated by your reputation with them, and that has a more...
there's a delay.
There's a lag, yeah.
Yeah. Bob Creed's work, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Looking into it, dee-dee-dee-dee.
Are we back?
Not quite. Not that I could see. Tell me we're back, kids. All right, we're back. Honor Knight 82 says we are back. Now, where was we? Oh, we talked before, because I was really, really excited that we were finally bringing all of the disparate elements that were of the game's development together. We're back. We're okay. together, right? So we were creating the single-player story campaign. We were creating the procedural missions with the cinematics, the simulation itself, and I'm happy to report all of that exists in one game. We actually have a game now that we can play from end to end with all of the elements.
And our first tester has successfully completed that game and gotten the mission. The
little thing says, "You've won." You have restored the Arano restoration. Yeah. Congratulations, you finished the game. So it's a
Spoilers.
huge. Well, you could either win or you not. So it's a big deal. It's a very big deal. So. Where are we with the sim game development now? Keep it.
It all works. I mean, it's great. Everything
works.
is functional. It is not content complete, but
and it's ugly.
And it's
places.
Getting there.
It's getting
there are
less
places
ugly.
that make my jaw drop, and there are other. No, seriously.
The Argo's looking pretty sweet.
Yeah, the Argo's looking.
We just got the damage states back too. Like Kiva was talking about earlier, it starts as a husk, and it's beat to shit. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I basically asked for it to just be a hollow shell with just a framework.
Don't worry. You got that.
It was nice.
Yeah.
We just got the event UI, the final event UI working, and it looks great. It's
UI, for those of you who don't know, is user interface, just in case. Jargonville, just in case.
Who among you doesn't know what UI means?
They're all answering, I know, asshole. Keep going, please.
So we got the new event UI. It looks great. The sim game is not content complete, but that's probably going to be one of those coming in flaming, burning hot, because there's so much. We can make another event. Like we can't really draw a line and say, that's it. We don't need any more events. We're done, because we're always thinking, oh, I got a good idea for an event. I'm going to do, I have this idea for an event actually where after you upgrade the Argo's drives, you can run it at like 1.4 Gs. Which gets you to your destination faster, but it's hell on your crew. And so I have an idea for an event where once you've done that upgrade, your crew actually complains to you. And if you agree to slow down, your travel takes longer, but they stop bitching at you. Anyway, it's just like I keep having these cool event ideas, and I want to write them.
But the simulation itself is encoded, working. It's just that the UI, what we do is we put in this placeholder what we like to call programmer art. And it just screams, replace me.
The programmers do that on purpose. They
Absolutely.
make it like magenta and shit.
They want to make sure everybody knows this is not real, and swap me out for real good art. So you can play the entire sim game. You can manipulate all of the data structures and systems that we designed to be manipulated. And now we're trying to make that pretty and understandable, right? Because there's the understandable part too. Like, we know what the button does, but...
And there's tuning, which, that's my job, and I haven't even started it yet.
That's an excellent question, which leads me to a question about tuning.
Okay.
Well, let's start out here. This comes from Michael F. How data-driven is the sim game? Will it be technically possible? Well, just start out with that. How data-driven is the sim game?
It's entirely data-driven. Some of you who have cracked open the beta have seen the endless JSON files that drive everything in the beta, and that's also true in the sim game. Essentially, everything in the sim game is built on JSON data files, which is nice because designers, we're not very smart people. We can't mess around with code and stuff. We need simple text formats.
Simple enough. Now, I'm very excited about this next question because it comes from Stenner. And Stenner... The reason I'm excited is Stenner just got to the game very late, is a late backer, and has a ton of questions. And so, first of all, we just want to welcome you to the club. Thanks very
thanks
much.
for backing.
And thanks for the question. What was the hardest part of the sim game for you to balance and to get feeling right?
It's mechs. And so the thing is that in the lore, a mech is kind of like a knight's suit of armor, owned by a nobleman, and the nobleman, the ownership of the armor and the weapons and the horse is kind of what makes you a knight. The problem is that we can't really mesh that well with the mercenary company thing, where we want you to be acquiring mechs, you to acquire mechs, you to customize mechs, you to hire pilots to bring in to drive those mechs around. And we know how much mechs cost, right? It's all the numbers are there in the source material, and it's an absurd amount of money. It's so much money, way more than anything else in the setting. These mechs are basically walking mansions in terms of how much they cost. So we're looking at a situation where you go into a mission and you get your mech head capped in the first turn by a hunchback that wanders up on you with an AC 20. You're out several million C-bills. You're not possibly going to make that much money from the mission. You've already lost. Like, you may as well eject out and get out of there because you've lost the mission, even though you've only lost one mech. And that's true even at the low end. Even the cheapest mechs are so expensive that you really can't ever afford to lose one. And the same thing is true of acquiring mechs. If we want them to be priced reasonably, we have to make it so enormously expensive to buy a mech that it would be very rare for you to be able to do it. And then on top of that, there's the issue of the setting doesn't really want mechs to be for sale.
Sure.
Because they shouldn't be. They're these relics, they're, family heirlooms, and if I say, okay, you can go to this store and buy an Atlas, that seems a little weird given that it's, this incredibly powerful, rare sort of main battle tank of the Inner Sphere, that you would just be able to go buy one. So kind of bringing those two worlds together of how we want it to play and the loyalty to the simulation, the authenticity, it's been a pain in the ass. I would say that we've had more meetings about how to deal with mech salvage than any other element of the economy. It's like not even close. Figuring out how to... I'm not going to tell you how we're solving it because that would be a whole other long-ass answer, but...
We have some pretty good solutions in place.
I'm happy with where we've ended up, but I recognize also that it's the result of a lot of design compromises, which, that's the nature of game design.
I don't know what you're talking about there, but McCain, I'm going to zip over to you for a few minutes. There's a question out there, based on HBS's history of making the Shadowrun RPGs. I think we've made it very clear to people that BattleTech is not an RPG, and yet still there is some RPG feel to it, some RPG elements in there. And so, like, for example, and this question comes from Soviet Onion, which, by the way, Soviet Onion is fucking awesome. First question for the Q&A, excited to be here. Speaking of Mech Warriors, can we interact directly with the Mech Warrior between missions?
You can't, go talk to individual Mech Warriors. The way that you interact with Mech Warriors in between missions is through events that comes up, which are opportunities for you as the player to find out more about them and then to to decide on things that could actually change their trajectory in your company. As far as with the mainline story, we have basically conversations that take place that both advance the plot and also, you can go to the navigation room and talk to Samiri, your navigator, just to get to know her better and find out more about what's going on. All of that is not sort of heavily... we don't have a bunch of choice trees in the background based on that. Like, occasionally we might be setting tags and that sort of thing, but the nature of the story is linear. These are opportunities for you as the player to choose to ask more questions, or if you're curious about something, or express yourself in some different ways. Like, you could reply to Kamea with a more mercenary attitude or more of a noble attitude, should you choose.
Great, that answers Packrat's question. Good. Let's see. Kathy has a ton of questions. Kathy always has a ton of questions. Hey, Kathy, and thank you for all of
Kathy.
them. They're great. So I think you just said the story is pretty linear, right? Let's see. Hold on. I'm sorry, I missed the wrong question. Hold on. Will there be in-game pressure involved for the single-player story missions? In other words, are they time-sensitive, things like that?
Both. So there's essentially two types of story missions. There's we call them restoration missions. This is where you have to help the restoration either take or keep a important planet, one of the founding houses of the Aurigan Reach, and when you're responding to one of those missions, it is time sensitive. So this is basically a track by which your campaign progresses forward, or in some cases backwards.
I think
so you can lose if you ignore them for too long.
I think of it as a front line. There's a current front line, and they're always pushing to take more of your systems back, and you're pushing to take theirs. And if you ignore it, you're the special forces group. You're the one who can make a difference. If you ignore it, they will eventually conquer the restoration.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's fair enough. Kathy has another question just for you, Kiva.
Okay.
All right. Kathy's never asked one of these questions before. What's your favorite color?
It's a kind of dark red, kind of like this.
Yeah.
A little bit darker than
like
this.
a Merlot?
Like a Merlot.
Merlot, but not a Shiraz. No?
I'm not a wine person.
What about Malbec? No? Not getting that either?
Still a wine.
I'm really not a wine
Still
person.
Still a wine. I'm going to let that one go and move on then.
Okay. Dark red?
But yeah, I just want to let that linger for just a second.
All right.
All right, fine. Let's see. Let me go back this way. Contract negotiation. Next topic. We were talking about contracts earlier. McCain, in a previous one, talked about the iron triangle of contracts. Can you just reinforce what that is for everybody, please, Mike, and then we'll go to Kiva for a follow-up question.
There's money, there's salvage, and there's reputation. By default, client's going to offer you a C-bill amount for a mission, and you can negotiate how much of that you would like to request as salvage instead, or you can choose to come in under budget on both C-bill payment and salvage, in which case you will incur bonus reputation should you succeed at the mission. Basically, you did it for less, so they like you more.
Right. So, Kiva, is there anything to follow up there in terms of incentives? Why would you want to get the money low but the reputation high, or the salary? How's that whole thing work?
Well, obviously you want the money because you need money to run your company.
I've heard about that.
Do you know anything about running a company, Mitch?
Actually, I think I've proven I do not.
Oh,
So
okay.
let's move on.
The reason you want salvage is that you can't just go to the store. There isn't a Mech Parts Walmart where you can go buy a PPC. Most planets have a very limited selection of items available, and they're also slightly randomized. So you may not be able to find what you're looking for exactly, but if you see a panther walking around, you know that he's got a PPC, and you can kill him and get that PPC. So that's why you might want to focus on salvage. Reputation you want to focus on because that's what unlocks the really hard stuff. And it also makes shopping with and just generally working with that faction cheaper. They're more friendly to you. They'll give you better deals. So you're always sort of in this balance of keep the company running, keep the company supplied, keep the company, swimming in opportunities to do work.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, is this hitting close to home for you?
Actually, it is. I'm actually sweating in special places. Honor Knight asks, again, thanks for the second question, Honor Knight. Will mission use level scaling where you'll always face a proportional challenge? That's one you work pretty hard on, I believe.
Yeah, and let me just say, no, because I hate that shit. So there is a difficulty scaling that operates behind the scenes, and it determines the kinds of mechs that spawn, the kinds of opposition forces you're going to face. And that's based on a global scale that progresses across the course of the entire story. So when you start out, you're going to face lances that are like a locust and a couple of vehicles. When you're at the end, you're going to be facing Steiner Scout lances. And then everything in between, we've got, hardcore BattleTech nerds here who are perfectly capable of designing lances that are hard but not too hard. And
Tyler's made a lot of lances.
Yeah, so when you take a mission, you might take it as a difficulty 3 mission early on in the game, and it's, just a bunch of mechs, low-end light mechs. At the same mission at difficulty 8 is going to be a bunch of heavies and assaults, but we also key the missions that you have available so that their scope makes sense, so that you're not taking, rescue kittens, and those kittens are guarded by atlases, but at the same time you're also not, assassinating the crown prince of an inner sphere noble family, and the crown prince is only defended by 2 Swiftwinds who have a handgun between them. But on top of that, the difficulty range is variable. When you go look at the contract list, you'll see, okay, there's a 3-star one, there's a 4-star one. here's a 2-star one, that one's going to be really easy. You'll be able to set how hard you want your content to be by just taking the easy contracts. They pay less, the salvage is not going to be as good, the rep gains will be lower, but, you know, if you're limping along, that might be the right choice for you. Gradually over time, those really easy ones are going to fall off the bottom end, and more high-end stuff is going to appear. But then on top of that, different regions of the game world are harder than others, which means that they can be also tweaking the difficulty up. If you go do missions at the Davion-Torian border, which I'm fond of right now because I was just messing with all of those systems recently, that's a hard area. You're going to see some pretty serious stuff there because that's a flashpoint. That's where some conflict is happening. If you're doing missions for local yokels on a backwater planet in the middle of the unsettled part of the Reach, you know, that's going to be low-end content. You're going to be fighting pirates who have scrabbled together lances out of spare parts.
I'm going to bounce around for a minute because I find that very fun and chaotic.
I would defend my kittens with assault axe too, for what it's
Well, yeah, yours. Yes. Well, cat people are cat people, and that's just what it is. Mike, why don't you take this one so I can hear your voice for a minute? Mech Warrior progression. Can you talk a little bit about that? I bet Keith will have some
Mech
detail.
Warrior progression.
Well, first of all, do your Mech Warriors progress? I'm going to
They
softball.
So you've got 4 skills you've probably seen: gunnery, piloting, tactics, and guts. Each skill area has two different abilities that it can unlock, but Mech Warriors can't unlock all of those abilities. We essentially allow Mech Warriors to have 2 specializations, the first one, right? And then expertise is the higher one.
Do you need me to take this off your hands?
Go for it.
No, go. You're right. You're right. It is specialization. Go ahead.
I always get the 2 mixed up. So you get 2 specializations that determines your skill level 5 ability, and then you can choose one of those as an expertise, so you get the skill level 8 ability. So you can't just make like an uber Mech Warrior that has all 8 abilities.
You can have 10s in every skill. I mean, if you've been playing the beta, you know that we've been giving you pilots who have sort of between 5s and 8s and so forth. Yeah, that's not going to be what your starting pilots are in the real campaign. They kind of suck. And for those of you who are people I based those pilots on, I'm sorry. But
They'll get better if they don't die.
you just have to keep them alive and level them up, and then you get to pick a specialization, then you get to pick another specialization and turn one of those into an expertise. And finally, when you hit 10 in your expertise, you become elite, and I don't think there's anything. Oh, you help other people level up faster. That's right. That's what you get when you become.
And there's a party.
Elite.
Right.
There's cool like names you unlock too, like when you
Class
choose a
names.
specialization, you become a sharpshooter, and then there's
they're
other
neat.
examples, but that's the one that sticks in my head.
I patted myself on the back for a long time because of those names. I'm happy
Did
with
you
them.
really?
I'm really pleased with them.
All
Hard to
right.
come up with too. There's a couple who are like.
Let's see if either of you
searching
can
the
answer
ends
this.
of the thesaurus for it.
Nicaragua. You get it?
Are you
I knew what
asking?
she did there.
Okay, this is a name. You're not asking me about current
Nicaragua
events.
asks, how many Mech Warriors does it take to screw in a light bulb?
Light bulbs are lost tech.
There it is. Sorry, we can't answer that question. Let's see. Do Mech Warriors come with mechs, or how does that work?
Well, I mentioned that we had to make some concessions.
And that came from Pineapple Jack, by the way. Sorry, got to get that on.
Hi, Pineapple Jack. I mentioned that we had to make concessions to the idea of the Mech Warrior as a knight who shows up with his own horse and armor and so forth. So we want you to own mechs. You, the player, own and manage mechs and customize them and tweak them and sell them and rebuild them. So Mech Warriors do not come with mechs. They come, I guess they come with clothes, but otherwise naked as the day they were born. And you supply the mechs.
Okay.
That's it.
Good enough.
There are reasons for it. We can argue about it in the forums if you want. I'm down.
That said, I always form attachments over time when my Mech Warriors survive.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, well, Joe likes to pilot the Kintaro.
I think you mean to say Bob.
No, my
Bob
Bob
Carita.
Carita. So real fast, hey, so can we rename our
I don't
Mech
trust
Warriors?
that Bob guy.
Yes, you can.
Can you rename your mechs?
Yes, you can. And when I say rename your Mech Warriors, you can change their first and last names. You can change their call signs. You can change their pronouns. You can change their portrait. We really don't care. You can change whatever you want. This is specifically so those of you who are planning to stream this game can make all of your friends Mech Warriors who will then die. But yeah,
We totally didn't steal that from XCOM.
No.
We didn't steal
actually, yeah.
we didn't steal anything from XCOM.
XCOM is not a reference point for this game at all.
You hush your
and by
mouth.
the way, congratulations to the XCOM team 5-year anniversary. Just want to get that out of the way. Nice job, y'all.
You can also rename your mechs, though. Yeah, you can give them,
Stomper.
I was going to go with something more obscene, but I'm glad you jumped in there.
Ubergespracher, right? Whoever gets the PPC, Ubergespracher. That's just me.
Yeah, that is just you.
Oh, yeah, it's true. That's why I do things.
Yeah.
Hey, Bubba-san asks, will the monthly cost of a Mech Warrior go up as they level up?
Ooh, that's neat, because yes, it will, and it's always cheaper to have someone you trained up yourself. So points that they gained while they're in your employ are cheaper to have than points they gained before you hired them. So any 2 Mech Warriors, if you trained one, they could. I think it's they're 2/3 the price versus someone that you just hired straight out of. Basically, what I'm saying is that you will pay a premium for the premium Mech Warriors if you get one of your big badass dudes killed and you just want to replace him with someone who's just as good. Yeah, that's going to cost you a lot.
Just to interject here, as we're talking about Mech Warriors, we got a question here. I think it's from Karaminde. Is it true you can hire Cameron Coyne as an immortal pilot who doesn't die, just deserts? That is a reference to Death from Above, and the answer is no. Yeah, as a matter of fact, we're keeping Connor, who plays Cameron Coyne, strapped to his desk. I don't think he's actually left the office in a month. And take a shower, pal.
Remember how I told you all that nice stuff about how we have these encounters and we have all these different variations on the encounters? Connor? We have Connor.
And Connor.
And mostly
and
Connor.
Connor. And that is why he is strapped to his desk. And Connor's beard is now down to his nipples.
I wish you hadn't given me that mental image.
See you after class. So, we are moving on. Hold on. Who is this? Domo Monkey asks, will C-bill expenses be a flat rate, or will there be fluctuations like regional pricing, interest rates, and so forth?
Well, it depends on what you mean by C-bill expenses. Like, if you're shopping does vary by location, by who owns the place that you're shopping in. But if you're just talking about the expenses of your just running the Argo, the only thing that varies that is how much stuff you've built onto it. You will make the Argo much more expensive to operate over time as you upgrade it. But it doesn't, like, you can't go find a cheaper market in which to buy fuel. We've abstracted all of those sort of line item costs out into a general, here's how much it costs to run the Argo.
All right, we are getting down to the wire because we've got about 10 minutes.
We love detailed budget spreadsheets.
Oh, God, that is so much fun. It's way more fun than actually making games, for sure.
I like spreadsheets.
You're an alien to me.
That's
now.
I want to explain the salvage system. I know people asked about the salvage system. I want to explain it.
Explain it. Explain it.
Okay, so people specifically asked, like, how does that work? Is it just random? What's the system behind it? And here's how it works. When you negotiate for salvage, you're negotiating for both a total amount of salvage, so let's say 8, and then an amount of priority salvage, so say 2. And they're negotiated at the same rate, so it's 4 and 1, 8 and 2, 12 and 3, so on. When the salvage comes up, what's in the available salvage is literally what was on the mechs you killed. And we track things like, I mentioned the Panther with the PPC. If you blow up his right arm, like destroy his right arm, you're not getting the PPC. It's gone. If basically anything that you actually blow off or destroy or reduce to scrap, you won't get.
You have to kill softly.
You need to be careful with your killing. Anything that is available that you didn't obliterate is in the salvage pool. And the first thing that happens is those priority salvage amounts. You get to take, your pick. You get to take first pick out of everything available. So there's that PPC. You negotiated for 2 priority salvage items. You're going to grab the PPC and, I don't know, maybe a jump jet or something, whatever else it is you want. Then your employer randomly gives you some of what's remaining up to the amount of salvage you got. So in the case where it was 2 priority and 8 non-priority, you'll get 6 more items randomly chosen. And then the employer keeps the rest because they're the employer and that's what they do. You can negotiate all the way up to quite a lot of salvage, and some, I mean, it's mission dependent. It depends on what the contract has in it. Some contracts will offer you salvage up to, I think I wrote one that offers 20, so 20 and 5 priority. And they're as low as 4 and 1 priority as the max. So you can negotiate for a lot of salvage, and if you know that the contract you're about to do is going to have really cool mechs in it, or you suspect that because you won't know until it starts, you might want to do that. You might want to just focus on salvage. That way you'll get your pick of everything.
Fair enough, and thank you for doing that, because I was about to say, before we close out and go, because we only have a few minutes left to go to live questions, please go through the salvage system. So thank you very, very much.
One point there, just to clarify, is that not only do different missions have different expected amounts of forces, but depending on the employer, what Kiva was saying there is that the contract actually dictates the maximum amount of salvage.
Yeah.
So when you're doing that initial negotiation, you can't always bring that up to 20. You can bring that up to whatever the employer is willing to give you.
And that's not just the employer, it's also the kind of mission it is. If you're doing a snatch and grab where you're rescuing someone from a base and running for an evac point where you're going to be met by a leopard, you probably aren't going to get much salvage from that, just because the nature of the mission, you don't have time to hang around and loot the place. If it's a destroy base where you go in and level everything, then you'll get to pick through everything that's left. You'll probably be able to negotiate for more salvage.
So your strategy for choosing whether to go for C-bills or salvage or reputation depends a lot on the context of the mission itself.
Yep.
Well, good news. It is time for the live questions direct from chat. Please, for my sanity, put the word question in all caps and brackets before your question so I can find it quickly. And don't be afraid to repost the question. You're not being spammy. You're actually helping me see your question, okay? So bring it. Let's go. Because it is a lightning round time. We've got about 8-ish minutes left, and I got a drum roll from Bang Chow. And by the way, just to stall for a minute, somebody said on chat, you guys of course didn't see it, that I run my company the way I run the Zathran Defense Force, which is on Death from Above, which is to say, dangerously. Dangerously. I really appreciate that.
He likes to think that he's dangerous.
Let's see. Oh, no. I play an our business is dangerous, and I role-played a dangerous person on a very dangerous planet. It had plague, just as an example.
That planet is in our game.
That planet is in our game. And no, you won't be able to come and talk to Lord Commander. All right, here we go.
Hold on, I'm taking a note to make sure that you do get to come and talk to Lord Commander.
Thank you.
In an event.
Let's
I love
see.
The event
Question.
System.
From, let's see, I've taken somebody that hasn't asked one. I don't know how to pronounce your handle there. DScow7, forgive me for that. Are you guys going to go further with tweaks on weapons and stuff like that past what we're seeing in the beta? Mike, you want to take that one?
So we've had a good couple of months of development since the beta release at this point in our development branch. I don't know specifically what we've changed in that department, but we've changed some stuff.
There has been tuning of weapons. Off the top of my head, I can think of a couple of changes that people will either hate or love.
Ooh,
they won't be indifferent. They won't be indifferent.
Yeah, that's right. Let's see. Hold on. Sorry, these things are so huge. One thing from W.E. Karneski asks, did Mitch Jordan and the rest of the gang get my cool gifts? I added the word cool. They should have arrived yesterday. Yes. They arrived yesterday. Mike's going to run and grab them because I love Mike very, very much. While Mike does that to show everybody your cool gifts, and by the way, we dig you so much. Thank you for that. I'm going to keep going with some questions for Kiva.
That was some serious ass-kissing right there. I'm impressed.
This stuff actually means something.
No, I didn't mean from you. I meant from them.
I don't take it that way either. I don't know why you did it, but I just assume there's love that flows back and forth between us and the Mech Warriors out there in the periphery.
I guess
that's what's coming from me. If you don't get
I guess I'm more cynical.
Yeah, well, it was. Indrasari asks, how far is Holly in in making the quads? And the answer is, no more. She's not. Look at this stuff. Can you do the thing with the thing? What? Yeah. Check this out. Now, how does this? I thought it lit up, but I think
it lights up if you put light behind.
Oh, is that what happened? Somebody, because
here.
I got this. Oh, look.
There you
Ooh. BattleTech.
I don't think you can see that at all.
You can totally see it. I see it. And the cool thing about this is that this is the logo from the BattleTech Centers, if you're familiar with that. So this is one of the very first logos that I actually interacted with and bonded with my little buddy Jordan over.
Have I mentioned, by the way, that the training that your Mech Warriors do when they're not actually in battle is done in pods, and those pods will be very familiar to some people?
But we are not actually putting pod simulation into the game, right?
No.
All right, good. Thank God. Mechmaster07 asks, will there be melee weapons?
No.
No, it's 3025. I don't
Post-launch, in success, all things are possible.
Oh,
Yep.
look at you.
I mean-
you should get a tattoo.
Technically, the Hatchet Man did exist. Practically, no.
Sky Shadowing asks, does employer negotiator, as in the person, reflect on your ability to negotiate a contract? The person you're actually negotiating with, like Bob Carita.
We had a very extensive system for modeling like specific people that you were talking to and their sort of their position in the hierarchy, and it turns out that focus equals quality.
You need a tattoo also. This is great. We're all going to have tattoos.
We do still show you the characters because they're cool.
They are cool, and they have personalities, fairly extensive backstories, and we hope that in the future you'll get to see more of them.
Kiraminde, our old buddy, asks, is it possible to back the Directorate instead of the Restoration? For those of us who have sympathies with certain governments.
You can back it by inaction.
Yeah, you can't actually directly work for the Directorate during the single-player story campaign, but if you don't do the Restoration, eventually the Directorate wins, and then they're just another faction that you can take jobs from.
There you go. It's sort of like, no, you can't side with the aliens in XCOM 1. The FDH says, will there be a brunch event? McCain, you're a hipster. What do you think?
Every weekend.
Sky Shadowing asked me to tell Thrachin, squawk!
Squawk! Yes, I am protected.
I don't know how to pronounce your name, and forgive me for this. Ferrot, F-H-E-R-O-T, asks, will there be any unique rare mech variants like Lost Tech or something like Hero Mechs in BattleTech?
My lips are sealed.
Mikey McCain?
Yeah.
Also sealed too. Love it. Good. All three of us. Sealed it. Let's see. What do we got here? Menthro asks, this is the first time I've seen your name, Menthro. Nice to meet you, sort of. Will we get to play on extreme environments, like underwater and in a vacuum?
No and yes. Underwater is kind of a pain in the butt. There's a lot of additional art stuff we need to do to make that work, and we're focusing on terrestrial stuff. But yes, you will fight in a vacuum, and it sucks.
Let's see.
On a planetoid still.
Yeah.
In case you're...
Yeah, no, you won't be floating through
distances,
space.
yeah.
The sucks is that you can't dump heat very easily in a vacuum.
Hey, McCain, this one's for you. Mad3R Marauder, our old buddy, asks, in the YouTube comments for last month's Q&A, a guy asked for a high-res picture of that poster right there. Didn't we put one of those out? Isn't that on our Kickstarter page?
Put it somewhere before. There's a thread. It's stickied. I think it's in the news and updates section of the forum, and it has a big old fan kit of. It's like all the concept illustrations we did for the Kickstarter. A few of the pieces that we did after the Kickstarter. It's got the Inner Sphere map. I think it's got the Aurigan Reach map now, and I think that piece is in there too. I don't know like how high res it is, but
I designed the Aurigan Reach map. You should grab it because I love it.
That's pretty cool. If it's not in that post, it's in the Kickstarter update about the Aurigan Reach. But anyway, that piece that wasn't painted.
Sorry,
super high res, to be honest.
Tapped something horrible. We are almost out of time. We're going to go fast. Try and get a couple more in there. Mecha Duragon asks, is there a shore leave system?
Only insofar as the event system has shore leave events in it.
There you
And
go.
if you travel to Ryza, everybody takes shore leave.
There it is. I was waiting for the Ryza joke. Prussian Havoc. Never heard of Prussian Havoc, I'm sure.
Who's that guy?
No idea, but he's way bigger than me. Prussian's question is, how does the creditor portion of the economy work?
The loan system is really actually very simple. If you've played City Skylines, you've basically seen it.
I just want to point out, you've referenced City Skylines and you've referenced Crusader Kings. But
it's almost like it's a good match.
With Paradox.
With Paradox.
Our publisher. The funny thing is, these systems had nothing to do with Paradox being our publisher.
Nothing to do with it other than when Paradox came up as a potential partner, I started doing a little dance because I love them.
Oh, the FDH says to me, by the way, Mitch, by brunch I was referring to secret drinking on the set of DFA. I never thought of that as secret. I thought that was a very
There's no secret drinking.
Brunch was a synonym for drinking.
There's no secret drinking here at Harebrained Schemes because it just happens at people's desks.
Yeah. Almost out of time. Let's see. Yeah, I just hummed a long time.
Come on, give me a question, man.
I'm trying. Honor Knight 82 asks, how rare are rare items? If we're rich, will we be getting tons of double heat sinks and specialized weapons?
Double heat sinks? No. Specialized weapons, it depends on where you are. If you're in Taurian capital worlds where it's super high tech and they have massive weapons factories, it's pretty reasonable you could find specialized weapons. Specialized weapons are also by manufacturer, which means that the manufacturers have houses that they're associated with, so you'll need to go to the right area of space to get that manufacturer's weapons.
Ian Dressari asks, can you tell Tyler we miss him? No. Okay.
No, because I don't want to distract him. He's working on the tutorial.
That's right. Just sit there. We're training people to this is now the point in the project where people are stapled to their chairs.
You think we're kidding. We're not kidding.
This is the point where I make a disclaimer. We do not chain people to their chairs.
And we don't staple people anymore.
You don't have to chain them if you use enough epoxy.
There we go. Can we tell Tyler we miss him on DFA? I'm sorry, no. Let's see. Super Duper Moo asks, will right torso destruction with the arm falling off make the arm weapon unsalvageable?
No.
Right. That one's salvageable as long as you don't destroy it.
Yep.
Right? There we go.
The arm is not actually destroyed. It just, you blew it off.
Let's see. Here's a question for us. How do you plan the combat tutorial? Is it click here, see that's how a mech can move? Or, is it more like an introduction mission a la XCOM 2? McCain, what do you say about that one?
It's a fairly short and sweet primer on how to move and shoot with your mechs, and it also sets the groundwork for the story.
Yeah, it's in story. It's not just a random blank world you wander in.
Final question, because we are out of time, and we ran over because we love you, and this is, again, our last Q&A of the year, so that we can go back to not the hardcore work we're doing now. It's actually double secret, super duper hardcore. Jeez. Spartacus RW asks, will there be standalone scenarios like famous battles from Total War?
Not at launch, but in success, etc., etc.
Etc., etc. Actually, that should be your tattoo. In success, etc., etc. Sorry, I got to sneak one more in because I got this a lot. Will enemy Mech Warriors have a backstory? We actually answered that. There's a life path.
Yeah, like a dossier. It'll be, you're looking at the resume.
Yeah, you'll see.
For your Mech Warriors.
Yeah.
For your Mech Warriors.
I'm going to try to answer questions on the forums that we didn't get a chance to answer, but, I'm also busy, so.
Yeah, you're also busy and chained to your desk, and you actually sit right near me, so make the game. I'm a little sad because this is our last live stream Q&A of the year. We actually really enjoy doing these. We really enjoy taking your questions, interacting directly from you. The Ask the Devs portion of the forums had to be archived because we just can't take that much time away from making your game. Hope you understand all of this time is sunk into making your game. McCain, just how much time do you have to yourself these days? That was a joke question.
What is the meaning of time?
Yeah. Time means nothing. We actually have
No,
no
I
social
mean,
lives anymore.
You know, we've got to finish the game, but we really appreciate all the support and just being able to have this venue is fun. Like, it's nice to have both the familiar faces coming in and see what kind of stuff y'all are interested in, and you know, we'll see you on the flip side, as it were.
Absolutely. We'll technically see you next year. Oh no, we will see you at MechCon in December, right, in Vancouver. That's in Canada.
The magical land of Canada.
Yes, and many of us will be there. We're going to try and bring as many HBS staffers up as possible for that. MechCon is great, and we really recommend that you make some time for it if you can. So shout out to Piranha for putting that on. It was a great time last year, and we expect a great time next year. That is all from us. We deeply appreciate you. We are actually sincere, and by we, I mean the royal we, are actually sincere. Thank you very, very much. We are going back to work, and I'm shutting off this damn microphone.
Bye-bye. I
Aloha.
love you.